One year I was in grade school, I had to sell candy, and I was going door to door, and one of the neighbors was like, "What is this for?" And I was like, "My parents need money."
Hello, and welcome back to Rewatching Home Movies, a weekly watch-along podcast where three friends break down the 1999 animated series, Home Movies. My name is Tim, and I'm obsessed with home movies.
My name's Adele, and I'm a home movies newbie.
And my name's Marcin, and I've never seen home movies.
Home Movies Season 2, Episode 2, titled Identifying a Body. Original air date January 13th, 2002 on Adult Swim. Written by Brendan Small, Bill Broadus, and cast. The synopsis for this one: Brendan's attempts to get money for a walkathon are foiled by Coach McGurk's road trip. Meanwhile, Paula asks for a raise. So that's it.
That is essentially the whole episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
We
Thanks
did
for
it.
listening.
Thanks for listening, guys. Check out... No, just kidding. We have more podcasts to do. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick little trip into the Creative Corner. The Creative Corner being, of course, a little realm where we highlight anything creative that we're consuming, producing, whatever. I got a little surprise, guys.
What's the surprise, guys?
We have a very special musical guest to sing our Creative Corner theme.
Special guest? Who
That's
is
right.
it?
It's so weird. He's been sitting next to me this whole time, and you guys have been like, didn't even ask about it. So, okay. Are you ready, Mr. Dillon?
Bob Dylan's here?
Creative Corner, doodly doo. Thank you, Bob. Okay, now sit down until the podcast is over, and then I'll give you a ride home.
Bob, sit. Bob.
Bob?
Sit down, Bob.
This isn't about you, Bob.
God damn, dude.
Jack's gonna be so jealous if Bob Dylan was here.
Yeah. He reached out to us,
Yeah,
which was
like,
wild.
He's a big fan.
Yeah, he's like, I've been listening to home movies.
We
I was
said
like, thank
that
you.
It's not about you, Bob.
Yeah. We're like, you can do it for season 2, but that's it.
Classic Dylan.
Yeah, so the good news is he did sign a contract. He will be sitting next to me for every season 2 episode to go ahead and sing the Creative Corner theme for us. And then, Bob, one more time, maybe like just a clean, just one more. Creative Corner, doodly doo.
We said clean, Bob.
I know. The funny thing is, we talked about this on the car ride. Creative Corner, who would like to go first?
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not looking at anybody.
We were both looking at you.
I can go first.
Go.
I'll go first. So my Creative Corner this week is a YouTube channel called The Proper People. I've been watching them for, I don't know, like 5 years, and they go to abandoned places all over the country. Sometimes they've actually gone to other places in the world, like in Japan and stuff, and they will respectfully go into these abandoned places. They're both cinematographers and just take beautiful, beautiful shots of these abandoned places, and it's done so well. Sometimes they get into hijinks, like one time they were at an abandoned hotel and there was a homeless man living in there, and so they got chased out by the homeless man. So was
that a hijink?
Is that what hijinks means? I don't know. They got into some trouble. How about that?
I was going to say, these hijinks.
These crazy kids. But no, it's just these beautiful shots of these forgotten places set to some beautiful music, and I'm for it. And they're called The Proper People is because they go into these places very respectfully. They don't vandalize. They don't touch anything. They just go in, they get the shots, and then they get out. And it's just chef's kiss, beautifully done. The Proper People.
I really like that, especially whenever you're exploring these places, because there's a lot of groups I'm in where they explore abandoned areas, and that's the one thing is they don't tell people where it is because people will just show up and break stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's abandoned and it doesn't matter anymore. But I really like that. You said that's The Proper People?
The Proper People, yeah. And they tried to, because like you said, it's they're very preserved, but also like nature is taking over a lot of the places, and it's a really nice put it on in the background and just kind of chill out type of video. So
Hell yeah.
that's mine.
Have you ever tried exploring like abandoned places or anything like that?
I'm trying. I mean, not. Oh, well, there was one time.
That's all we can legally say about that.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's
I
right.
heard that you always try to talk Nate into going into abandoned buildings nope, scratch that, bleep that, in places around here.
Constantly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the idea of exploration, going in the forest, going through. There is an old, I won't say what it is, but an asylum where I used to like live, and I liked going inside of it because it was abandoned, and going up there, and there's just so much, it's spooky, and the ambience, especially on a foggy night, there's just something nice. I love exploring, and then all of my friends are anxious, scared people who don't want to get in trouble, so I understand.
I relate to that. There's a weird thing when I see that an obviously abandoned building. When I drive by one and I see one, the thought is never, I want to explore there. It's always, I want to smoke weed in there.
Yeah.
Bro, I want to smoke a bowl in there, dude. That'd be fucking sick, man. Get all high and paranoid and then leave immediately, dude. Hell yeah.
I think my main anxiety when it comes to exploring abandoned places is the structural integrity for sure.
Yeah.
And obviously if there's like squatters or dangerous squatters in there
Right.
that want to hurt me. So
Yeah.
That is the main part, because like as a kid, I'm not afraid of ghosts. I don't
same.
really believe in ghosts. I don't really believe in those spooky things. I want to believe, I really do, but like they don't scare me like they might others. I do worry about people who have set up traps when you walk up the stairs and a knife comes down.
That's wild.
Person gets caught in a net.
Yeah, it's like, please don't, no. But I love the idea of adventure, and adventure for me has to have something to do with like some type of fear. And I like it, but a lot of people in my life don't like it, so I don't tend to do it very often. I've tried to get so many of my friends into some of these hijinks, as you call them. So.
Well, a lot of people in your life also have baseline anxiety. So.
Yes.
I'm one of them. I push through.
La-ti-da.
Yeah, God among men.
All right. Do you want to go next, or would you like me to go?
No, I can definitely go next.
Cool.
Mine has a little bit of a story to it. So you know the podcast Dungeons and Daddies. I think that's like...
Who are you pointing at right now?
I'm pointing at...
Pointing in podcasts.
I'm pointing at podcasts. I'm talking to Tim here.
Yes, I am familiar with Dungeons and Daddies, yeah.
They're a group of filmmakers and people who made it from Rocket Jump. They made a bunch of Video Game High School is something that they made. They love making movies. I've been following them for a long time and listening to them. They made a movie called We're All Gonna Die, which, if you peep the hat that I'm wearing right now, the movie came out in 2024. They actually used the money from their Patreon that people would buy with Dungeons and Daddies to get like bonus content, and they used that money to fund this film, We're All Gonna Die, which essentially is kind of like this Lovecraftian road trip romance movie. It's
nice.
Okay.
It's really fun. It was directed by both Matthew Arnold and Freddie Wong, and in the cast, one of the main cast members is Ashley Birch, who voices Chloe from Life is Strange.
Oh.
Yeah. She's also been on Dungeons and Daddies.
Because isn't her brother
Anthony Birch is the DM of Dungeons and Daddies.
Yeah.
I love Dungeons and Daddies. I love the show. It's really fun. But We're All Gonna Die, the movie, I think I've told you this story, Adele. They were doing, because I'm a Patreon subscriber to them, they gave out free tickets because they were doing a tour across the country of the movie for the Patreon subscribers to kind of be like, here's a free ticket. You basically bought the movie. Come see it. I wanted to go see it really bad. And for context, it was right after Monday Night Raw, with the segment in Chicago where The Rock came in and surprised everyone, and I didn't get to go because I just didn't buy a ticket, and I regretted it. And the next day they were doing the showing, so I was like, I'm going to the showing. I'm not going to regret it like I regret The Rock showing up in Chicago. The second I walk out the door, my phone flies out of my hands, and just like a perfect vertical crack down the middle, so only only the left side of the screen could be seen, and I had no idea how to get to this place. So I took like 2 different buses, one bus going the wrong way, and I was like crying. The second bus went to a different direction. I had to get on another bus to get on there. Anyway, I showed up late to the movie. It's like 30 minutes in, honest. 30 or 40 minutes, I can't remember, but I missed a good chunk of the plot, and I was really upset by it, but I got to see it. It was really fun. It was a very good message. The movie is called We're All Gonna Die, and it's about grief and about loss and about like dealing with that afterwards, because the whole message of the movie is like, yeah, we're all gonna die. That essentially, like, what are you gonna do with your life to make that happen? And I met Matthew Arnold and met Freddie Wong. They stayed afterwards and they signed my hat. Yeah, because I was like, I had a horrible time. I'm buying a fucking hat.
See, I would have, as soon as my phone would have broke, I would have rage quit. I've been like, I guess I'm not going.
I would have too, except The Rock showed up in Chicago the night before.
It's really The Rock's fault at the end of the day.
It really is, because I didn't want to regret that, so I decided I'm going to go no matter what. I pushed through, and I'm glad I pushed through. And I went. I saw the movie. I was really happy I saw the movie. It was a really good movie. It was really enjoyable. I really loved the message. And then talking to Matthew Arnold and Freddie Wong afterwards, and Matthew talked about how he was writing the film, and he says he doesn't want it to be like a personal, this is how it is about me, or this is just a thing, but like the reason he came up with the idea was in college he had to take a road trip to his friend's father's house to get his friend's car to his dad's house because his friend had committed suicide. And it, like, that whole road trip he had with all his friends was like a very like mournful experience, but it was a very good experience for him. Damn. And that's how he got the idea for the movie. And I just really liked the movie. I really did. So that I wanted to spotlight that for my creative corner.
Is there a place people can see this movie, or is it still like making the rounds in theaters?
It technically came out in its initial release back in March, but I've been trying to find a place to like watch it, and I still don't know where it is or where to watch. They're essentially, I think they're still like touring it.
Sure.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Well, we'll do this. We'll see if there's anywhere you can, like stream it or download it to support them, obviously. And if we can figure it out, or if it's available by the time we're ready to drop this episode, we can put some kind of link or something in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Because Dungeons and Daddies is such a good podcast. You sparked a memory for me, and I'm going to do my creative corner is also a movie that was crowdfunded, that was made by a content creator that Adele and I kind of wandered upon one day, like just looking for something to watch. And it was a movie called Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls.
That is very fun. When that Kickstarter happened, me and Nate, I had just been fired from my job, and me and Nate had like kind of a weekend together where we were just commiserating and having a good time because he was also unemployed at the time. And Onyx the Fortuitous Kickstarter popped up, and it was like, do you want to donate to this movie? And me and Nate both donated to the film, and our names are in the credits.
Hell yeah, dude.
He's a little pissed about his because his isn't Punkin' Nonstop. It's his actual name.
Damn.
And it's right next to another Nate. So
there's 2 Nate in the credits?
In the whole world, yeah.
And they both really wanted to support this movie.
Dude.
So he was it's just gimmick for me. My gimmick is
how come they did it for you and not for him?
Well, because he accidentally put his real name and not the...
Oh, shit.
But I got to go check, because I think Nate told me he did kind of like maybe shoot some emails or something and try to get his...
They never got back to him.
No.
They were like, it's already done.
I understand, though, because they're like, I can't go back and re-edit the film after it went through the festival,
Right. So Onyx the Fortuitous is a character played by a gentleman named Andrew Bowser. When clips started surfacing online of this Onyx, usually at some kind of Comic-Con or a comic book shop or something, so many people, I think, didn't realize that this was a character.
Yeah.
And he's that, like, cringy goth guy who's like, notice me, senpai.
I don't know.
I still love that.
I don't know.
Oh, you bought some comics. What are they? It's a manga. Oh, what's it about? It's about a brother and a sister, and they fuck. I love.
Yeah, he crowdfunded the movie Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls. Fun watch. goofy movie.
Very good.
I still haven't gotten a chance to see it.
I love how you donated to the movie and then you never watched it.
Well, I wanted to so bad. But
You have to now.
I do. I definitely want to. We were waiting for the film festival. There's no way to watch it until he released it on Tubi. I thought he was going to release it on Patreon, which I know you were donating for the movie to get made, not for the movie.
Right.
So I understand that, and I would definitely buy it. But wasn't aware of it until it just it went through the fact that it got to Sundance of all places. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, and good for him, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit.
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say I really liked that in the movie they used a lot of practical props.
Effects. Yeah, practical props and
Because
effects.
I think CGI, I mean, it has its place, but people lean on it so hard, and I just miss practical props. And the way they did it, it was so well done, but also had a little bit of nostalgia in it too. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to say.
For a movie made by a content creator through crowdfunding, it was very good.
Absolutely.
It could have been Fred Movie Part 9 or whatever, but it was very, very good. So
I forgot about the Fred movie.
yes.
Again, just the practical effects aspect, because everyone wants to diss on CGI. It does have its place. I'm glad you said.
Absolutely.
But practical effects, it makes you believe, right?
Yeah.
Because even if it doesn't look realistic, which is what I think CGI tries to bring to the table of making something look a little bit more realistic, which it rarely does.
Right.
Even if something looks super bad and goofy in a practical effect, it still looks 100 times better, in my opinion.
Well, I think because it's physically there. The lighting is exactly the same. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about it glitching, So I don't know. It has a warm place in my heart.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, guys.
But, can I say one more thing?
Yes.
There was a lot of things that were said in that movie that he would say is oh, this is what a typical nerd says, and I'm like, fuck, I've definitely said these things. There was one part where he's like, swa? And I'm like, oh fuck, I used to say swa on the regular.
What is swa?
Instead of saying what, you're like, swa? I don't know why.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Swa?
Swa?
I think we're ready. I don't care about sirens.
Okay, cool.
Let them know we live in a crime-infested town.
Arc City.
Real rough and tumble over here.
That's right. Are you guys ready to jump into this episode?
Let's go.
Season 2, Episode 2, Identifying a Body. This episode definitely had commentary. Brendan admits one of the things him and Bill Broaddus used to do is go to this little coffee shop, and he said they would consume approximately 50 gallons of coffee each, and then just come up with these wild ideas for episodes. This episode, literally, the genesis of it was Bill Broaddus saying, we should have Coach ask the kids who wants to come identify a body with him.
Good choice.
Yeah, and that was that.
No, we'll get to it, but I will say McGurk had a lot. I think this was my McGurk episode. I really
that.
liked
Some
this
classic
episode.
McGurk points. Brendan, so a part of this was actually based in reality. Brendan Small, the actual person, when he was in Little Cub Scouts, he collected money for a walkathon, and then definitely slept in and missed the walkathon.
Oh shit.
I've never been a part of a walkathon.
Same.
I don't understand what the concept is.
It's just, raising money and being healthy. I don't know.
So you just walk and then people give you money?
Yeah. My mom's been in many, many, many walkathons.
Yeah, I feel like I've donated money for a walkathon. I've never been in one. I've done baseball and Cub Scouts, and we just sell candy or popcorn or whatever the crap.
I got a story for that a little bit later when we get to a specific scene, but
Okay.
God.
All right. Well, I mean, that's pretty much everything in the commentary that I just wanted to bring to attention up top. This episode itself, so when this episode opens on the school, I believe I had a conversation with Chris about this specific scene, because so already into season 2, we can see so much evolution of what the show has become.
Yeah.
This wasn't an establishing shot on the school and then boom, we're in the classroom. This is where on the school, we zoom in, we go through the door, down the hallway, make a turn, a student walks in front, goes to a classroom, and then now we're in Mr. Lynch's office. So just those establishing shots have now evolved into so much more than they were in season 1, which was basically just the school and then Chris's animation of the flag waving.
Yeah.
Classic.
They leveled up.
Yeah, for sure.
Or did they level down?
Wait a minute.
That flag animation.
It just does something for you.
So the kids in the classroom are all talking. Mr. Lynch asks them multiple times to quiet down. He gets to a point where he counts down, and he's like, yeah, it must be great being a kid and talking whenever you want. At this point, the class is completely quiet and settled. They have just completely settled down, so he's like, oh, okay. So he asks anyone if they know what a walkathon is, and no, nobody seems to know. He claims it's when you walk for money, and Melissa makes a comment that sounds like a WOT.
Waste of time.
Right. So a couple things real quick with that one. She says, that sounds like a WOT, and Mr. Lynch says, what is that? And then, yeah, they explain a waste o' time, and he's like, oh, clever. So that's a... And Brendan's like, it's an A, meaning an abbreviation.
That one went over my head.
It took a few watches because I'm like, it's an A. Why is he grading? And then he's like, no, he's saying it's an A. It's an abbreviation. I'm going to abbreviate the word abbreviation with
Mr. Lynch really likes Brendan. I've started noticing because they have like a rapport going on.
Yeah, I think they have a similar sense of humor that he appreciates.
For sure. And yeah, I definitely get a vibe that if this was a student that Mr. Lynch didn't like, he'd be like, hey, stop talking. He wouldn't be like, oh, what's that? Like,
I think about him whenever he would talk to McGurk, and he's like, are you trying to make fun of me? And he's,
Mr. Lynch explains what a walkathon is. They're walking for homeless people. He explains that more importantly, they need to collect more money than the fifth graders because the last 4 years, Miss Jackson's class has raised more money than his. He's very passionate that they beat the fifth graders. There's even a part where he's like, and who hates the fifth graders? And in unison, the kids are like, you. And he's like, no.
No, we
all do.
No, I think it was a little bit later when they bring up we hate the homeless.
Yeah, because there's a very similar. I think this is the second or third time Mr. Lynch has got his class to speak in unison. What are we speaking in class? Unison. So the next scene, we're at the small residence. To Brendan's surprise, his mom puts $50 in the donation bucket for the walkathon.
Yeah, that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
It was.
Like, honestly, back then, it would be like dropping a $100 bill.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Which is, I wouldn't do that.
Giving her reasoning is a pretty presumptuous of her.
I believe the saying is counting your chickens before they're hatched.
Ah, yes. Chickens.
Because she
nuggets.
Honey mustard.
Yes.
I love
ranch. So Brennan asks if that's too much, and she says, no, there's plenty more where that came from. She said she's getting a raise. Brendan's like, oh, that's great. And then she quickly corrects herself, and she's like, well, I'm asking for a raise. And then Brendan's like, well, that's practically great. Paula feels like she's been working there long enough, and it's the best time to ask for a raise. And Brennan offers to go in as her handicapped child. And I like that Paula's like, we might not even need you to do that.
Oh, really?
Yep. And then implies that, yeah, she's going to have enough money to get the kitchen redone. She asks Brendan if he wants to help pick out a color, and he's like, nope.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Because I've never asked for a raise. Have either of you ever tried asking for? No, yeah, I'm getting no's.
No, I have too much anxiety for that shit.
Oh yeah.
So
I worked at a. I'm not even going to say their name. I worked somewhere that said they were going to give raises every quarter. I started at 15, worked there for 3 years, and I ended with 15. So
I've worked jobs where there comes some type of evaluation, and then your raise is tied into how well you worked. Funny story. Few jobs ago, I had a job, small business, and I had asked for, was it a $2 or $3 raise?
It was a $2 raise.
But I said, look, this is what I would consider a livable wage, and it's not what I'm making. Unless we can meet at this $2 raise, I have to find something else. And this business owner told me in order to give me a $2 raise, she would have to close down one of her 2 locations.
I have to interject here because I call bullshit because she gave you that same line when you were quitting. She's like, oh, well, you're quitting? Well, now I have to shut down my other location.
Right.
Bitch, just shut it down.
And the amount I was asking for come January 1st will be minimum wage for this state.
Yep.
So rip in peace to her business, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't even want to have the conversation because it go into so many different things. But like, just how long is a long enough time to ask for a raise? Because she said 3 years. Is that not?
Oh, I think that's more than a long
Oh, yeah.
time.
I was going to say maybe a year.
Yeah, I personally think once you got a year in, if you haven't seen any increase at all, I would say something.
Yeah.
Let me write that down.
Yeah. You going to ask for a raise?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it.
I think you should.
Well, now that this episode came out, I think this is a good time. I'll show him this episode.
Yeah,
Be like,
I do feel like it's something that doesn't happen as often these days. So it probably does feel weird.
no one really teaches you how to advocate for yourself as
Well,
an
the
employee.
the problem too is we've been so conditioned to
Take it.
not just take it, but then say, well, if person who does X, Y, or Z flips burgers, takes my order at McDonald's, whatever, they deserve 15 an hour, blah, blah, blah. I only make this much. Okay, don't get mad at that 16-year-old kid
Yeah,
working at
dude.
McDonald's. You turn around to your boss and say, why the fuck am I only making $2 more than some kid at McDonald's?
Yeah.
You don't take it out on the kid at McDonald's. It blows my mind how quickly we want to point our fingers at other occupations and say, well, if they make a livable wage, why can't... No, we should all be making livable wages.
Absolutely.
Why are we pointing our fingers at anyone except the person who is in charge of our raises or lack thereof?
That's the competitive nature of capitalism, baby. That's what they teach you.
Capitalism. Just the real horror of
Yeah.
spooky season is capitalism.
This is a home movies / anti-capitalism podcast. That I will hang my fucking hat on that.
Let's fucking go.
The amount of times they have to be like, damn, in 2000 they could afford this, that, and the other, and we're sitting here like, I want $10 ice cream. What the
yeah.
I would love that. Like, I don't know. This is a pretty good episode to talk about this because with the A plot and the B plot being like wanting a raise and then also raising money for homeless.
Right.
And a dead body.
And well, that's what happens if you don't get a raise.
Yeah.
You die.
Or the fact that McGurk has to literally like kind of bank on a family member dying to get ahead a little bit financially.
Which doesn't even come to fruition.
No.
No. I think he made out at the end.
So the next scene, we've got Brendan and Melissa kicking a soccer ball back and forth, arguing in a very childish way.
Which, by the way, the animation of them kicking back the soccer ball, I really enjoyed that.
I did
So
write
good.
that down. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
So good. It was such a good back and forth. And they're like, no, you can't. Yes, I can. Da, da, da. We find out they're arguing about whether Brendan can win a walkathon or not.
Which then I thought was going to be the crux of the episode, was that he was going to try to win the walk-on.
Right.
Nope.
Well, at this point, Coach McGurk approaches the kids and tells them, hey, keep practicing. I got to run an errand. Melissa asks where he's going, and then that's when he quickly replies, none of your business. And then he's like, wait, on second thought, who wants to come with Coach and identify a body? It shows the group of kids, Brendan standing there with his walkathon can filled with money, which my assumption is maybe that's how Brendan got picked.
Yeah.
Hey, you, dumb 8-year-old with can of money. Let's go.
I wonder why Coach McGurk wanted someone to go with him to begin with.
Right.
You think he was a little nervous?
Could have been.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
mean, you're gonna see a dead body, somebody that, which, okay, we can get into it when it comes to it, but you can cut this out if it's too early. But like, he says he's never met the man, so how
Right.
can he identify it if he's never met him?
Great question.
You
I mean,
just take
I'm
that
serious.
and then put it into the later part of the episode, because like I was.
No, I think it's a very valid point, and
Yeah.
no, we're gonna leave it here. But yeah, how are you gonna identify somebody you've never met? Pictures, maybe?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
I think pictures. The
Pictures.
fact we will get into it, so I won't bring it up here. But there has to be some sort of relationship there. There has to, just based off of what happens in the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. So now we cut to Coach driving his car. I think this is the first time we see. Is this the first time we see Coach's car?
Yeah, it is. It is.
So it's like a Firebird, right?
Do you love his car?
I love his car, dude. I wrote down McGurk's car is amazing. I was so happy when I saw his car.
Did you see what was written on the top of his car?
Reckless.
Yep.
I wrote that
checks
down,
out.
baby.
Yeah. I think his muffler's hanging. But yeah, I mean, am I wrong? It's like a Firebird,
Oh,
right?
no,
Yeah.
I wrote Firebird, and then I also wrote or Thunderbird.
Or
question
Thunderbird,
mark?
yeah.
You know what I'm realizing about you?
What?
You like chaos.
Okay.
You love chaos.
You love chaos and hate Jason. What?
I love chaos. I hate structure because no one wants to take a chance because everyone's so afraid all the time. So the idea of someone's being chaotic out in the world, it's like, yeah, burn this motherfucker down.
Well, there's a certain level of chaos. I'm like, okay.
Okay, I agree. I would beg you to pull up the scene with McGurk in the car because it is still just... It's just the one little clip where we see Brendan, and then it cuts to McGurk, and for a split second, you just see him. He's so decked out, and he looks like the coolest motherfucker.
Yeah, he's got driving gloves. He's got the glasses. Another thing I picked up, I don't know if you saw this. Did you see he's got his tassel hanging from the rear view? And he is class of 83. Yeah, he's got the driving gloves. He's got the green shades.
I didn't even realize the chain steering wheel.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my. He's the coolest motherfucker in the world. Look at him. He's got a lightning bolt. He's got a lightning bolt on this.
The 8-ball. He's got the 8-ball stick shift gear, the little ball on top. I hope that's a cigar right there.
It's a baguette.
It's a baguette. It looks like a giant turd.
Yeah.
Okay.
His passenger seat looks like my passenger seat floor before I got clean it out, before Adele gets in my car.
I did write down passenger peasant.
Passenger princess.
I will say I wrote it down too, class of 83, which is very important to me. But also, it now confirms how old McGurk is.
You're right.
Yeah.
36 of age.
Yeah, so if he was class of 83 and this was in like 2000?
2001 is where
Yeah.
I was doing
McGurk
math.
is 5 years older than me.
McGurk's had it rough, though.
McGurk had... Yeah, as you can see, I used to be in shape.
Same, McGurk, same.
Yeah.
I love his fucking car. I love it so fucking... I got so happy when that car showed up. It made me so fucking tickled.
So Brendan's talking about the walkathon, and he's telling Coach, walkathon, yeah, that's fine. I'm just glad we don't have to do a runathon. You want to see an 8-year-old have a heart attack? I like it. He's like playing with the window, going up and down. He's like throwing a Pepsi cup in the back seat.
The thing I really like about this in particular is McGurk is clearly showing off for Brandon.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's clearly like, this guy thinks I'm the coolest dude. I am the coolest guy in the world. He's got the glasses on. Oh my God. It makes me so happy.
Noticing Brendan is Brendan starts counting the money. Coach is like, hey, why don't you kick in a little bit gas here? And this starts one of my favorite, it's like a little mini montage. They even say in the commentary, they're like, yeah, in season 2, we realized we can like quickly move the story along. We don't have to have like 5 phone calls with Paula Poundstone in between every scene. Like, they're like, we could just keep it moving. So Coach is like, Brendan, why don't you kick in for gas? And Brendan's like, all right, I'll get the gas, but that's it. Then it was, all right, I'll get the sodas, but that's it. Okay, I'll get the bagels, but that's it. We see him looking at a pair of pants. Okay, I'll get the pants, but that's it.
Which, by the way, that pair of pants had the biggest zipper I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
How much? Okay, we don't know for sure how much money was in the bucket in the first place.
At least 50.
At least 50, but there's a bunch of different bills.
There's a
in
lot of bills in
Yeah.
there. So even if those were smaller bills, I'd say you got at least $75,
Yeah.
right? And 1999 bucks.
Goes far.
It really can.
So it's all these, okay, I'll get the, but that's it. I'll get the, but that's it. And then the last one is, how much is 15% of $39.50?
I wish I had seen. I have just recently learned how to do like percentages, like when you're giving a tip out at a restaurant. I used to just like freak out and be like, "Oh, is $5 enough? Is $8 enough?" I never knew the decimal trick, and Nick just recently taught me that.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to do that, and when he was saying it, I was like, "Son of a!"
Even McGurk knew. Yeah.
And then I love that little. What are we even doing here? I'm supposed to be identifying
Yeah.
a body.
Yeah.
They both have like suit jackets on. Like they made them dress up.
Yeah, they
nice
made them
for
wear
the restaurant.
Yeah. It was like a members only probably restaurant, so they made them wear jackets. Coach is like, what are we doing? We got to identify a body. And Brendan's like, he's not going anywhere. And then Coach is like, why?
This is why another reason why I think McGurk was a little nervous, because he's procrastinating with all these stops along the way.
That's true. I mean, they're obviously benefiting him, which is nice too. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it is kind of like a put this off as long as we can.
Yeah.
There is something a little bit later when McGurk is talking to Brendan, and he's definitely projecting, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. So the next, we cut quickly to the next scene, and that's the kids at soccer practice. It's dark out. Walter and Perry are talking about how cold they are, and they agree, you know what? We should hug.
I loved this scene.
Even though everyone is
So
watching,
cute.
and they hug. We don't care who's watching because hugging is great.
I agree with that scene. And the thing I like about it is, like, you don't know what gender these people are at, like, because they don't really. Do they have names?
Walter and Perry.
Walter and Perry.
I brought up Walter and Perry were in early episodes. I brought up we definitely see them again, and their characters evolved tremendously.
Really?
Nice.
This episode, this scene, actually, is the kind of turning point for their characters. Because, and they mentioned this in the commentary, right? So the scene is just written as Kid A, Kid B, they're cold, they want a hug. It's just like a little wholesome kid scene. The animators go back to, I think it was The Art of the Sucker Punch, so we're talking like episode 3, 4, season 1. They pull the characters for those two, Walter and Perry. Mm-hmm. Those two characters are, Chris talks about this in the interview, those two characters are Brendan Small and John Benjamin, with their voices pitched like way, way up. What these two characters become was all a direct result from this scene of two characters being cold. They want to hug. They don't care who's looking, blah, blah, blah. They just take that with these two characters and just run.
That makes me.
So these two characters, reoccurring characters, essentially inseparable, very gay coded.
Yeah.
Really?
We love that.
So, not even coded sometimes.
We love gay codes.
They
here.
mentioned in the commentary that with John and Brendan doing the voices and the retro scripting and the improv and stuff like that, that the scenes would literally get to a point where they're like, these characters are making out. That's right before that is when we stop. Right before, as the show goes on, it only gets, I don't want to say worse.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's
only
it's
gets
bad
better.
at all.
It
There you
goes
go.
more extreme.
Absolutely.
They just keep going. While I was sitting there, I was like, "Is this going to go anywhere?" And then we never go back to it in this episode. But that makes me happy to see. But I was just like, I don't care who. I just want to. I hate the cold. I can't stand the cold. Yeah. If it's like in the 60s, my teeth starts chattering. Like I can't stand it. And so I'm cold. I want to hug. And then I don't know. Growing up under growing up as a dude like. With toxic masculinity, it's like, I want a hug. Give me a hug. And then that just made me very happy watching it.
Another thing I might have mentioned, because this was brought up in commentary too, that is when the characters started, so season 1 especially, but as they were seeing them more in season 2, again, it's Brendan and John Benjamin. They would forget which character they were playing. At one point, they accidentally switched the voices, and I'm not sure if it was the animators didn't know or they didn't know, whatever. And once they said this, I was like, oh my God. But one of them is always like, Perry, Perry, Perry. Because he's reminding the other one which character they're playing. So just keep that in the back of your head, especially as we go along in the show and we see more scenes with Walter and Perry. Perry, Perry, Perry.
As a DM talk like who has to DM for like memory loss to the extreme players, I'm always like, your character wouldn't do that, or just like hey, what's your name? Duncan? Nope. It's Desmond. Anyway,
do you ever make the people who play wear name tags with their character's name on them?
I wish if we played more together in person, I probably would have ended up doing that. Yeah. Or I've always wanted to just have their like character art like in a picture frame right next to them, so we can all kind of get into character to do that. But when we just switched over to remote work, it there was nothing we could do.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, but no, that makes me very happy. Also, I'm not sure if we touched on this, but like they're like still practicing.
Yeah,
they're still exercising at like 8 in
Dude, these kids, I mean, realistically, these kids would have called their parents and left.
Oh, yeah.
hours ago.
Oh, no, but they have so much respect for McGurk.
Yeah, that must be it. When what, like a handful of episodes was it? He like, hey, who showed up to soccer practice yesterday in the rain, even though I wasn't here? Like all of them raise their hand. One of them sneezes. He's like, bless you. Yeah, that was literally the last episode. That was the politics episode where he was doing stand up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. He's this soccer comic. I love him.
Okay.
You know, if they replace McGurk with or if they replace Jason with McGurk, that'd be just them doing the home movies would be so much more enjoyable for me.
Okay.
Wow. Wow. After an episode where Jason literally does nothing wrong.
Yeah. Coming
didn't
for
do
Jason
he-
for no reason.
Yeah. We'll get to it, but dude, one of my favorite scenes, in probably the entire show is coming up later involving Jason. So anyway, let's cut back. We go back to Brendan and Coach entering the morgue. I had to rewind. I don't know if you noticed because they mentioned it briefly in the commentary. Again, I've seen these episodes a million times. Probably 1 second shot of them walking into the morgue. Off to the side, there's a garbage can with a basketball hoop above it with just like blood and organs around it.
Yeah.
I didn't even see that. Oh my God.
Such a quick sight gag.
My eyes went two different directions because on one hand there's that, and then on the other hand there's just like a burger covered in ketchup. So it's like,
Yeah.
they're eating while they're playing with the organs.
Oh my God.
Not to get off on a Bob's Burgers tangent, but the original story for Bob's Burgers was they're next to the morgue,
Yeah.
and their burgers were going to be made out of human.
Well, wasn't that the first episode where they had
The original concept was it was actually going to happen.
Yeah.
The first episode, they made it so the health inspector is coming, trying to shut them down and saying there's human meat in there as kind of a little nod to what the original.
I wonder what the show would have evolved to if they would have went with the original,
Right.
because that's like dark.
Yeah. Would it have gone a million seasons?
I don't know.
I should probably watch Bob's Burgers.
And then I will say real
That's right.
Oh, we'll get to it later. Okay.
Yeah,
We'll get to it later. Anyway. So, Coach comments that it's weird to see a dead body, but especially with Brendan there, which, yeah, dude.
You brought a kid.
Yeah.
I
He starts to second guess whether he should have brought Brendan or not. Brendan says, hey, I'm cool.
I'm cool. That made me happy. That made me so. I laughed so hard.
The thing, they mentioned this in commentary too, there's a lot of stuff that is happening to or around Brendan that if he would have a genuine reaction, the network would probably be like, whoa, dude, I don't know about this. But because so much stuff is happening around Brendan, and he's like, yeah, I'm cool. That's fine. Okay. Because he doesn't have a reaction, it makes it so it's like not as serious as it actually is.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's how they get away with a lot of stuff, by being like, oh, just Brendan doesn't care. He's fine. He's cool. This will not have definite lasting effects on this 8-year-old.
People handle death differently. They really do.
It's true.
Yeah.
Not a long story, but in Kentucky, my neighbor's husband passed away. She didn't know how to deal with it, obviously, and she just kept posting a picture of his dead body to her Facebook, like over and over and over again, like every couple of days. She just didn't know how to handle it. Freaked me out.
People grieve in different ways.
Yeah.
I can't follow anybody for that. No judgment. It's just from an outsider perspective, you're like, wow. But dude, I don't know how I would react if
You never know until you're there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, at one point, Coach tells Brendan, like, hey, don't tell your mom about this.
Good call, honestly.
Yeah. It's always great when an adult tells you not to tell your parents about something.
Yes, and not the first time McGurk has told some of the kids not to tell their parents.
Yeah.
I like the mortician opens the curtain, and he's just like slurping on a drink, like, yep, this is my job, this is my
Real
life.
cash.
And we see Coach McGurk's dead Uncle Pedro. At one point, Brendan says something in a whisper, and Coach is like, you don't have to whisper. He's dead. He can't hear you. And yeah, and then at one point, Coach is like, did he just wink at me? The next scene, it's Coach and Brendan, and they're laying on the hood of Coach's car. Coach makes a comment about the whole situation is weird, and even says that, Brendan, when you get older, this is going to disturb you. And Brendan is like, yeah, not that I'm totally not disturbed right now.
See, this is the part where I think he was projecting a little bit, because I think he's like, this will disturb you at some point. I think he was like definitely disturbed.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think he wasn't handling it well.
Yeah. Maybe he did bring Brendan to be like, okay, there's this kid here. I can't have
Yep.
a wild reaction. I got to keep it cool.
We see you, McGurk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also wanted to bring up something. Remember when he brought up the fact that he was like kind of adopted by a Greek family?
Oh, yeah.
Was this? Do you think Pedro was part of the Greek family?
Oh, because I know Pedro is like more of like a Spanish name.
Yeah, it's Spanish.
Right. The
Portuguese.
only reason I would maybe push back on that a little bit is I feel like because the whole Greek family thing was, you know, he ran away. He ended up at a pizza place like 4 blocks down the road. He worked there. They adopted him and all that. This Uncle Pedro, to me, does kind of look enough like Coach McGurk to be like, oh, yeah, they're related. It was the head.
Mm-hmm.
Something about the head is like, oh, this is just like McGurk's head, but longer. So that's
Yeah,
why I
I
think
can
like, no, I think this was like an actual blood relative.
Okay, I was genuinely curious when it was like my Uncle Pedro.
Yeah. Who knows? But I mean, Coach even brings up that it's weird because, well, he does say this is the first time he's meeting his uncle, which again goes to Adele's, like, how are you going to identify the body of someone you've never met?
Yep.
He compares it to when a movie opens and then immediately closes due to poor advertising. And like, you hear the movie was crappy, and so you didn't miss much, but like, you don't know. You don't know it's crappy. You didn't see it. And Coach points out that it's kind of like trying to figure out if the movie was crappy or not. Brendan makes a comment that it doesn't make sense, and Coach agrees and says, you know, nothing makes sense after you see a dead body. Then he kind of looks at Brendan and he's like, are you thinking what I'm thinking? So then we cut to Brendan and Coach in the movie theater watching the movie Farmageddon.
Was that Farmageddon? Because there was 2 movie titles.
So there was another one that was called something like Not Without My Schnapps. And it had on the poster, it had Ken Adelberg, who showed up in this episode. He showed up in the last episode as the flower delivery guy.
Yeah.
I did write that down.
Ken Adelberg to me feels like, who's that character on The Simpsons who has like a billion jobs? Like Gil? Old Gil is blah, blah, blah again. Ken Adelberg is this character that pops up in season 2, and we see him almost every episode, and he has 99 jobs.
Oh, because I did write that down, like, because he's also the butcher. The flower guy is the butcher? Question mark.
Yeah.
I was unsure of what was going on there, but fine.
Yeah. So he's on the movie poster for Not Without My Schnapps. Yeah, they're definitely watching Farmageddon.
So he's
Okay.
been in every episode of season 2 so far.
Yes.
Yeah.
He tells Brendan, hey, gonna put you in charge of Operation Popcorn. Brendan hits him he says, aye, Cap'em. And even McGurk is like, what? That's a line that shows up later in the show. I recognize that line from a different scene. So, aye, Cap'em. And that's when he realizes all that walkathon money is gone.
$75 down the drain.
At least upwards of $75. Or Brendan's freaking out, but Coach is like, well, go pass around the can and then bring back some popcorn. Coach like cannot be bothered.
Really can't. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand nor care.
We're at school the next day. We're in Mr. Lynch's class. He's having all the kids line up and then put the money they've collected so far in he calls it a barrel. I don't know. I don't know why I find that funny. Melissa starts out. She throws some money in there. He says, good job. She's like, yeah, it's $4. And that's when Brendan walks up and dumps in 3 rocks. Mr. Lynch points out, the homeless don't need rocks. They need money.
I had a weird reaction to this scene. Have you guys ever fundraised for school?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever not fundraise for school, but they were like, it was a required thing?
It was a required thing, but I never not did it. Oh, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I had to sell like raffle tickets, and then I forgot, and then my grandma and aunts had to buy them all up the night before, and they were like filling them all out.
It's like, why do you put? I don't want to do this. Like, I hate it so much. For wrestling, we had to like sell cookie dough, and we like, like I'm already in the morning doing morning practice for 2 hours, and I'm doing practice in the middle of the day for 2 hours, and then after school for 3 hours, and you want me to go sell cookie dough?
Did your school ever make you sell candy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
my freshman year, so we can afford our senior whatever the fuck, and then the school shut down.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
One year I was in grade school, I had to sell candy, and I was going door to door, and one of the neighbors was like, what is this for? And I was like, my parents need money. Because nobody told me why I was probably like 8 years old, and
my
nobody told me why I was doing it. So I was like, my parents need the money.
I bet you got more money for that.
Yep.
Oh my
They bought
gosh.
more. They were like, oh, okay.
And wouldn't it be wild? Like as you were walking over there, like you accidentally tripped and like you got a hole in your jeans or like you got a little dirt on your face.
And
you're
I was a cute kid too.
and you're like, oh no, my parents are poor.
My parents don't got any money. We're just all babies.
But for wrestling, I didn't want to sell that, so I bought myself a box, right? And then on the day when I went up there to like collect the cookie dough or whatever, the guy looked at me. He's like, "1 box?" I'm like, yeah. He's like, disappointing, man. Bad. Bad. You need to try harder.
Yeah. You should have sold $5,000 worth of candy so we can give you this pencil eraser that smells like a
Oh
watermelon.
my god, the prizes were always bogus.
They were
not
bullshit.
something that you wanted to win.
I feel like one year my parents saw the prize book and they're like, we can just buy you this garbage.
Yep.
Like, what do you know?
Yeah, it's trash. It's trash.
I've had to do it for baseball, and I grew up in a small town, so I mean it was pretty like, the neighbors were nice and all that stuff, so it wasn't that bad. But yeah, to shame a child for not, come on, dude.
That's exactly like when he stopped Brendan. I was like, oh no, and then like when it was rocks, I'm like, okay, all right, maybe we stop at the rock. I understand bringing up why did you put rocks in here.
I think this scene is another indication that Mr. Lynch favors Brendan because he gives him
Well, yeah, he
$10.
asked Brendan, did you collect any money? And Brendan's like, it appears I did not. And so Mr. Lynch feels bad, starts him off with a little $10 bill. Encourages him to collect some more money for tomorrow. And then Mr. Lynch says they need to collect more money so they can beat who class? The homeless. He's like, no. We're going to beat the 5th graders.
But I want to beat the home.
Yeah. No, he says we're going to beat the 5th graders. And who are we putting money in the barrel for? And then they say, you.
That's such a good bit.
I love it.
I don't think anything's going to beat the what are we speaking in class?
Unison.
I still love that.
So the next scene, we're at the small residence. Paula's sitting on the couch, and Brendan is laying on the floor. Paula asks Brendan, hey, do you want to do a role-playing game? And he's like, no, I'd rather sit here and do nothing.
Fair.
That's a very good, like, straightforward child thing to say.
Yeah. Oh, that, and do you want to help me pick out tile for the kitchen? Nope. So that's when she confesses she wants Brendan to play her boss so she can practice asking for a raise. First thing Brendan asks, can I film it? Paula is a little reluctant and is like, the filming makes me a little nervous. And Brendan insists, well, we can watch it back. So we cut to the table. Paula's asking where her boa is, and Brendan has to kind of admit that, oh, that's downstairs.
What's a boa?
Like a feather boa?
The feather boa, like the fuzzy, you wear one.
It's like a long rope
Yeah.
made of feathers, and women usually wear them around
Yeah.
their
Oh.
necks.
Funny enough, there's a character wearing one next episode.
Oh.
I assume I just always called those feather scarves.
Oh, it's a boa, feather boa.
It's long like a boa constrictor.
I used to work at a costume shop, so I'm used to selling.
That's fair.
We actually had like a boa section for different types of boas and shit like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if that comes from like because it looks like a big snake, like a boa constrictor.
That's how I always took it.
That's what I assume. But yeah, a boa or a feather boa. If you specifically want that feathery one, that's what people would ask.
So what if I just call it a feather scarf? Is that am I wrong?
Yeah, because I would for that. Well, for that I'm thinking like a winter scarf.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wear a boa if it's cold out. So you wear a
No,
boa
it's-
if you're going somewhere fancy.
Yeah, it's for fancy schmancy.
That's
Yeah.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, not to completely call you wrong and
No,
whatever
it,
for
it was
the.
very funny. I enjoyed it. Keep it in the pod.
I can be nicer and be like, no, buddy, you're right.
That's more condescending.
Yeah.
Did somebody have a fucky wucky?
Yeah, Brendan tells her that the boa is downstairs. So Paula puts on like a headscarf. Brendan's wearing like a top hat and a monocle, and he's also sporting a cane. And then I don't know if you caught this part where Brendan's like, okay, let me get into character, and kind of like crosses his arms and is like, okay.
Stretching, big stretch.
We're gonna do a big stretch.
Big stretch.
Brendan asks if he could get into character And I think this is going to be the first scene that we play.
I will point out one thing that happens in here that is not audibly noticeable.
Yes.
Oh, I think I know you're going to talk about.
Yeah. I think I brought it up too. All right. I'm going to start it here. When we watched the episode, I think I brought it up too.
Get into character.
Okay.
Okay, I got it.
Ready? Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Lindenson.
Call me Arnie, please.
Okay, Arnie.
I changed my mind. Call me Mr. Lindenson. No, I'm
Taps her in the
seeing
head
you
with the
right
cane.
now here in this office. Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about my current financial payment area.
Whoa, wait a minute. You're going to say that?
I'm going to clean it up a little bit, Brendan.
Let's try it again.
Okay.
All right. Now then, why are you here?
Because I'd like my raise now, please.
That's weird. More confidence.
That's
Okay.
weird.
Okay.
Mr. Lindenson, I'm asking you for a raise.
Good. How much would you like?
20%.
Ha! Done. Put it there.
Mr. Lindenson. Thank you.
There it is. Goose.
Thank you, Mr. Lindenson.
All right. Cut.
Okay, how'd I do?
Well, it needs work, but you know what you got going for you? It's called the pity factor.
So that was the part 2 when he agrees to the raise and he's like, put her there.
And then
And then puts his foot out. So she shakes his foot instead of his hand.
that was the exact thing that made me just die. He also, when he's in that outfit, I keep expecting him to go, "Oh no, it's the unknown."
Oh, yes.
So after they record the little thing, Brendan asks if he could meet Mr. Lindenson so he could do a better job imitating him. And Paula makes a comment like, I don't know if you want to meet him. He's got a very weird energy about him. That's when we cut to our first scene with Mr. Lindenson. We are in Mr. Lindenson's office. Now, Mr. Lindenson is voiced by a comedian named Andy Kindler. Okay.
I have no idea who this is.
Yes. Well, and you probably don't know his character from Bob's Burgers either because you don't watch that show, but he plays Martha Mortician in Bob's Burgers as well.
Adele just looked at me, shook her head, and did the tisk sound.
Tisk.
A couple things they mentioned in commentary about Andy Kindler and his acting for the show specifically. They're like, if you think Andy Kindler's just standing still in a sound booth while he records these lines, you are wildly mistaken. Apparently he is super animated all over the place, just absolutely when he's recording the lines. They made a comment that they think Andy Kindler is probably one of the funniest people they've ever worked with. He's just one of those dudes who's like funny when he's recording and funny when he's not. Brendan makes a comment that a lot of people tell him that they think the character of Mr. Lindenson is very, very annoying. And Brendan always tells him the same thing. He's like, yeah, because Andy Kindler is an amazing actor.
I was going to say, this is the first time I regret the character I doodled, because I go off of character design. That's the first thing. I see a good character design, I start writing it. The character design's very fun, but goddamn do I hate this character.
They even mention in the commentary that as the show progresses and the art gets better and stuff like that, that his character model is a little out of place in the whole movies.
Yup. Yeah, we'll get into it more in...
Sorry to cut you off there. That was just pure, like...
Yeah,
I'm
no.
so sorry.
He comes back for sure.
Yeah. So we cut to Mr. Lindenson's office. He is speaking to his assistant, Juliet, through one of those, like, office speaker box devices. He tells her he has several instructions, with the first one being that he's leaving for the day. And then he corrects himself. He's like, okay, one instruction. I'm leaving for the day. She needs to clean up the office. He tells his assistant that he has a new system. If yes, say nothing. It is a new system or a code. In the middle of him talking, he stops himself and he's like, did you say something? And then again, yes. If yes, say nothing. We hear the assistant sneeze. And he even asks, is that a yes? And then finally we do hear the assistant say no. And Mr. Lindenson says, what did we say no meant? The first time I ever saw this episode, I was like, there's no assistant. This dude is just a nut job. But then finally she's like, no.
We also see her very briefly.
Yeah, I liked her character design.
I was trying to doodle her so quick, but we never saw her.
You got like 4 frames. It was very quick.
I liked her glasses.
Oh, yeah, she looks super cool.
We cut to Mr. Lindenson pulling out of his house. He gets out of his car and accidentally slams his hand in the car door.
I want to make that a TikTok sound so bad.
It was the way he said, what does he say?
This earworm is something that I have carried from this show for years. The way he says, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
That's kind of how I feel with Cleveland from Family Guy when he's like, oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and funny enough, there's a second one too that's also from later on this episode. But when he,
When he steps out of the car and then just, like immediately.
Oh, so he slams his hand in the car door. He screams. He realizes his keys are in his car. The car then rolls down the hill, rear ends the rich couple from the season 1 episode Law and Border.
I did not notice
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So then that happens. Then a biker isn't paying attention, runs him over, and then to top it all off, he gets a flat tire. The following scene, Brendan is approaching Coach, who's sitting on the bench on the sidelines of the soccer field. Brendan asks Coach if he could maybe pay him back some of the money for their little road trip. And Coach is like, where's the fire?
I'm in a cash crunch.
Yeah, he tells him he'll get his money. Brendan's afraid he's going to get in trouble. Coach is like, are you from the mob or the IRS? And he tells Brendan to give him a little space. Coach says he's in a bit of a cash crunch because the government doesn't want to pay teachers well. Even Brendan's like, look, we can do this all day.
Yeah.
But reiterates that he might get in trouble. Coach remembers he's going to a will reading for Uncle Pedro. You know, maybe he'll get a little cash, get his money back. So
Brendan sounded so desperate here. He
Yeah.
sounded so like, come on, man, please. Come
right.
on."
Just give me the money, man.
So we get another. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Road trip. That's when they do the the chest bump, and Brendan falls over, and then we get that very far away shot of Coach like waddling away while
Yeah.
Brendan's just laying there. I thought that was so funny.
I especially liked that they kept the same animation
Yeah.
still from the first episode with the shitty cars and everything.
Yeah. The next scene, we're at the law offices of Dwyer and Terwilliger. They say in the commentary that Dwyer and Terwilliger are actual last names of animators. They were fine using it. They're like, yeah, it's the animators. It's fine. The lawyer gives Coach his condolences. He even asks him, like, is Brendan your son? And they both kind of laugh. And Coach is like, if Brendan was my son, I would kill myself. And Brendan's like, if he was my dad, I would kill him too. Like, just very goofy. They said in the commentary that they wanted to be like, when he was like, is that your son? He was going to be like, no, it's my friend. And they're like, that's weird.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're not wrong.
Yeah.
Do you think Brendan kind of internalized that a little bit?
About that he's not his son.
Like, if he was my son, I'd kill myself.
I mean,
I
I wouldn't
think
be surprised.
I think it'd be incredibly hard not to, especially
Yeah.
with who Brendan is.
Yeah.
His lack of father figure.
Yeah.
Right.
Fat her.
So to get on with the meeting, the lawyer explains that Uncle Pedro was a very successful sausagier, made a very comfortable living. He even thought about leaving the Coach the family business, but quickly reconsidered. Instead, he left him his last remaining sausage. The lawyer even takes it out of his pocket, which, what?
Please keep that in a fridge, baby.
Right? Put it in a bag, my guy. Coach is like, is that it? And the lawyer's like, yes. And Coach is like, I came here for money. And the lawyer's like, well, there's no money. And then Coach looks at the lawyer, he's like, then give me money.
I wrote that. Give me some money.
Give me money.
Brendan looks very concerned, and the lawyer's like, okay, my secretary will see you out. The next scene, Coach is at a meat market. He's trying to sell his uncle's sausage. The store owner, Ken Adelberg, does not seem very interested.
Would you like my uncle's sausage? It's right here. Look at this thing.
He takes him,
Huge.
take your sausage, get the hell out of here.
What was that? What was that voice he was trying to do? It sounded like it was just trying to be an amalgamation of everything.
Yes. Brendan admits that a lot of his voices are people who you have an hard time understanding what they're saying. That's like a classic Brendan. And Ken Adelberg, get your sausage, get the hell out of here. Like, it's very, he makes it a point to have voices where it's like, what are they saying? That's like his bread and butter. Coach asks for $10 and Ken counters with 5. Coach says 7 and he says 6. And Coach is like, there's no way I'm selling this for $6. And he's like, get the hell out of here. So, yep, that's Ken Adelberg, voiced by Brendan Small. We saw him for the first time delivering flowers. Won't be the last. So, next scene, we got Paula sitting outside of Mr. Lindenson's office. We hear him tell Juliet, have the next person comes in. Paula enters Mr. Lindenson's office and is immediately surprised by his appearance. She asks if he's okay, and he's like, oh, why? Because of all the bandages? He asks Paula what she's doing there. And then she begins her speech about how she's been working there for a few years. I like that he's constantly like, you're going to have to speak up. So she's just getting louder and louder and louder. And then he's like, lock it down.
What was the direction for this character?
Chaos.
So you should love him.
Annoying chaos.
I like pleasant, nice, positive chaos. I don't like...
You can't pick and choose.
I can. I absolutely can. You can be chaotic and be nice to people.
That's fair.
So it gets to a point where he's telling Paula, like, okay, get to the point. Don't belabor it. We cut quickly over to Brendan. He's standing on a corner asking for change. He's got the walkathon can and he's asking for change. We see a man with no legs and a skateboard wearing a sign that says blind make his way up to Brendan. He tells Brendan, you're on my corner. And Brendan explains, no, I'm collecting money for you.
Thank you.
So he tries to take it and Brendan's like, no, I got to walk some number of miles first. And he's like doing like a little walk in place. The guy is holding the can and Brendan is like pulling away, essentially dragging him on the skateboard with him. So funny enough, the homeless guy is also voiced by Andy Kindler.
Oh.
Who does the voice of Mr. Lindenson. So these are very polar opposite characters that he's voicing. So now we go back to Mr. Lindenson's office. He's telling Paula, spit it out. That's when she finally tells him she wants a raise. And Mr. Lindenson straight up laughs in her face, tells her not going to happen. He gets increasingly loud and almost like ecstatic to tell her that she's not getting a raise. He even asks, like, how much were you going to ask? And she says 20%. He falls onto his desk laughing. So she's like, 12%? And he's like, that's more like it. And she's like, really? He's like, no, I thought we were doing like a shtick. He tells Paula, listen, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to say I'm going to do for you. And then I'm probably not going to do it. But he said he is going to talk to the board to get the self-defense class next door to quiet down. Perfect. So the next scene opens, garden gnome in the front yard.
Yep.
Oh, I did not notice
Yep.
that.
Two gnome
This is a 2-gnome episode.
Do have an official mention here when we get to it.
Garden gnome in the front yard. And then we start, we see this movie with Brendan and Jason.
Yes.
Oh, it falls over.
How do I look, Father?
Our son, not so good. You were crushed by this wall here. I'm afraid you only have a few more minutes to live.
Oh,
It looks
Father,
like the
that
priest from
sucks.
Casper.
Yes, it does, my little lamb of God. Yes, it does.
I suppose you're here to give me my last rites then, huh?
Yes.
Hold on there. I'm trying to reach my wallet.
Oh, no, my son. Last rites are free.
Since when?
Since always.
Let me give you something at least.
No, it's really not necessary.
Please, let me just...
Well, anything you could spare the church would be greatly appreciated.
That wasn't too tough.
Is there anything, my son, that you would like to confess before you die and go to hell?
What?
Heaven, sorry.
Oh,
Offering you a chance to be absolved of your sins.
how do I know you won't go blabbing, though?
Well, you sort of don't.
So what are you saying?
What are you saying?
What are you saying?
What are you saying?
Forget it. I'll confess.
All right, hit me with it. Chop, chop.
Well, I accidentally stole some money once.
Oh, dear. From who?
From a charity.
You're kidding.
And no, I'm afraid I did. I was young, naive. I really didn't know.
Hey, everybody!
What are you doing?
This guy steals from charities.
Please don't.
I know.
Please don't do
I
that.
couldn't believe it either.
Please don't do that.
We never got one like that.
Please.
All right, I'll check you later.
Thank you.
Check you
No
later.
wonder a wall fell on you. That's bad karma.
Wait, hold on. Priests don't believe in karma. Wait, what are you, Catholic?
Actually, I'm Jewish.
I thought you were a priest.
Yeah, I do get that a lot.
Yeah, but you're dressed like a priest.
Yeah, it's laundry day. I'm down to my priest outfit. Look, buddy, I got a split. Hope everything goes well.
Holy
The wall
roller.
Slowly crushing you.
Is that a boa?
I just realized he's wearing the boa.
He is. I know what that means now.
I loved this scene. It hits a nerve for me, and I loved it.
I don't know if you picked up on this.
What?
Anytime, if it's joking or absolutely serious, you're like, don't tell anybody. I'm like, hey, everybody! Because of that scene specifically. Hey, everybody! This guy steals from charities!
We've never had one of these before. Check you later. I fucking love that
Holy
scene.
roller on his little...
The holy roller got me.
Jason. We love him.
Love it. Love it.
I want you to know, everybody listening, that Adele said that and then stared right into my soul. Don't worry, I'll get to my grade for Jason.
I loved
How could
Priest.
you have a bad grade for Jason this episode?
Oh, he's so good.
So we're back at Roth University. Paula's trying to teach the creative writing class, but all you hear is a self-defense class next door. Probably a character model thing. Do you remember the last episode? Paula was voted like nicest teacher of the month.
Yeah.
That's right. No,
What
I
are the-
believe it was best teacher of the year.
One of the students who was trying to take a break,
Yeah.
weirdly, is the guy who's now teaching the self-defense class next door. Probably just same character model, reused, whatever. I just found it funny that last episode he was in creative writing. Maybe she's got multiple classes and we're just now looking at a different class. Who knows? But
A different semester.
yeah, just something I noticed. So then after that, we see Paula run into Mr. Lindenson in the hallway. He apologizes for the way he feels he may have come off the other day. Paula tells him not to worry about it, but he is kind of insistent. He said he might have been a little too distracted from the irritability from being in a lot of pain. Paula. So Paula's like, hey, I understand. And Arnie even said that he's been thinking about what she said. And Paula was like, my raise? And Arnie is like, what raise? And so he's like, wait, you asked for raise? How did I respond? And she tells him, she's like, you laughed. And he's like almost amused. He's like, yep, that sounds like me. Up and down.
As much as his character makes me laugh out loud, I cannot stand him.
That's exactly what I mean. Like, so you brought up, like, oh, you hate this guy, but, like, you love Stephanie, right? And it's like, with Stephanie, she doesn't mean to be a dick, and he's just sitting there like, I laughed in your face. Fucking dickhead.
Yeah, he's a dickhead.
So Mr. Lind isn't correct, sir. And he's like, no, I'm talking about the volume problem of the self-defense class. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Classic
Yep.
boss.
So, but for that, I am sorry. He says, to make it up, do you like Italian food? And she says, yeah. He gives her his half-eaten lunch, then later confesses it's not even his.
This sounds like a boss.
Yep.
Sounds like a business owner.
So the next scene, we see Brendan waking up. Paula's bringing him breakfast in bed. The little eggs and sausage and bacon makes a little face.
Yeah, it's cute.
With the little nose.
Yeah.
And that's the other gnome was in.
Yep, he's cuddling up with that second gnome. That gnome looks so comfy.
Yeah, he's happy. He's happy.
He
little
happy,
gnome.
comfy.
So it is official at this point. We've seen that gnome multiple times in Brendan's bed. He just keeps that to cuddle with.
Yeah.
I would assume maybe this is a stuffed gnome. I don't think he's like
secondary
cuddling
gnome.
with like a hard rock, been outside garden gnome. I'm assuming it's a stuffed gnome, but who knows, really. But Brendan wakes up. He seems to be very refreshed, happy to see his mom, thankful for the breakfast. That's when he looks at his clock and realizes he completely missed the walkathon. The phone rings, and holy cordless phone from the 90s. He just throws it out the window. So we see Mr. Lynch on the other end. He's calling Brendan from a payphone, and he's calling him a series of very like teacher PG names. He's like, that no good walkathon skipper, that little redhead, that little red schoolhouse, that little bop bop-a-loo bop-a-lop and boop, that little tutti frutti.
I honestly kept waiting. It was like they were edging me because I thought he was going to cuss. I thought it was going to happen. I was
That fucking shit, Ben.
That's exactly what I thought he was going to do.
Did you guys see what his running number was?
No.
Did you?
I didn't.
It was number 13.
Number 13.
Barbecue. Burger King foot lettuce.
Barbecued foot lettuce.
We love the number 13.
Yes. He calls him all those names, but then is very happy. He got his quarter back. So we have a cool transition. He's holding up the quarter, and then that goes to the next scene where Paul is looking at a magazine of a guy holding a quarter that says save. It's like catalogs for kitchen stuff. So Paula, kind of defeated, realizes she'll never get her new kitchen. She's like throwing them away. Brendan makes a comment that they don't even use the kitchen anyway. And then after he says that, like a cabinet falls off the hinges, some plates break, they're in a spot. Brendan tells his mom he's got a little proposition. And that's when they cut to them at the movie theater.
Are we watching the same movie again?
It looks like we're watching Farmageddon again.
Yeah.
It must have been really good. I only do that if the movie's really fucking good.
It wasn't. Someone walked out.
Yeah. And that someone was the blind man who was also watching the movie.
He ollied out of there.
He pulled down his sunglasses. He makes a comment about how crappy the movie is, kicks his legs out, and hops on his skateboard.
He was fibbing.
You know, when I was doing the breakdown for this, another like maybe realization, maybe it was nothing, maybe I'm reading too much into this. I feel like Brendan found that homeless guy and was like, "Hey, let's go to a movie." It's almost like I totally missed the walkathon. It's like a little bit something to make him himself feel better.
I can see that.
I mean, I can definitely, especially because the movie that he made earlier was about essentially his guilt. This was the only way to resolve his guilt, was to like film himself being dead and then like
Oh my God.
turning it
A
to
priest shaming him.
Yeah.
And talk about like on the nose, like the wall is literally crushing him, just like he's so anxious about getting in trouble for, the walkathon stuff.
Poor Brendan.
Yep.
He just wants to be guilt free, and yet he keeps giving away the money.
It just gets worse from here, kid.
So we're at the final scene. We're at Coach's house. He's frying up his inheritance sausage, making a comment about how he's so broke he's got to eat an 18-year-old sausage. A sausage that legally is old enough to vote. He sits down, he cuts into the sausage, he takes a bite, and he says, "Oh, my sweet heaven. It's incredible!"
Jumps to the sky.
Yes.
I wish I could take that into like Premiere and go frame by frame and watch the animation of him just like floating up to the ceiling and then
Yeah.
coming back down.
Well, that would have been a completely fine ending, I guess, but we got to pull back one more time to reveal that Ken Adelberg is also there with a fork and knife telling Coach, "Save some for me." And that's it. That's the end of season 2, episode 2, Identifying a Body. They make a mention about the ending in the commentary. They're like, this is probably the weirdest ending we've had for an episode. But they said sometimes when you're working on something, you got those deadlines. And basically what they say is sometimes you got to wrap it up and get out of there. So
That's fair.
yeah, that was that.
I was gonna say like this whenever they have a McGurk there for the ending, like with the fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's gonna be just a car crash ending, like when the fish died and
Yeah.
he was getting arrested and then it just ended, and then McGurk's sitting here like, "Oh, this sausage that's 18 years old is incredible, I love it." And then, is that his name, Ken Adler, in the show, or is that just the voice actor who plays?
Well, it's voiced by Brendan. It's Brendan like doing a goofy voice.
Oh, so
The character's name is Ken Adelberg.
oh, have we learned about that in the show yet?
What?
Ken Adelberg is the name of that character? Because I
think it's been brought up.
It's next episode.
Yeah. I'm like,
Oh, okay.
I feel like I've heard it.
Okay, that is good to know. Gonna write that down. So
Which next episode, really good. Next week's episode, really good.
tune in next time.
Yeah. Let's start doing some grades. What do you say?
What do you give Jason?
Do we want to do Jason first?
Yeah.
Okay. So I struggled with that this episode
Because Jason was a perfect angel this episode.
He's a sweet baby
Because-
angel.
because he was there for one scene, right? And do I judge him less for not being there? Do I judge him more for not being there? Like,
Why don't you just judge him based on the time he was there?
yeah, which I am getting to on that. I was just like going through my thought
You're gonna
process.
put it against Jason that the writers didn't give enough put enough meat on them bones. That's not his fault.
No, exactly, which is the conclusion I came to. So I was sitting there, like, he was just very, very funny indeed. There's nothing else I could do. I gave him a B+,
All right.
B+. He was there. He was
Yeah.
great.
Could have been an A-, but he's going with a B+.
I agree. That's fine. That's fine. You do you.
Interesting. All right. Interesting.
I think somebody doesn't want to give Jason an A because then they'd have to admit
I think
that
he
he
was,
was-
no. Here's my thought process with this. Like I said, B. Right? He's just there. He hasn't done anything. No net negative. No net positive.
dude. But his scene was so. He rolled his eyes at Brendan probably no less than 6 or 7 times. His character
You know
was
what?
great.
A+.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Holy roller.
That was
Come
very
on.
fun. I gave him a plus. He was one
fine.
scene. I gave him
That's
a
fine.
plus.
Okay, that's fine.
All
B
right.
plus, respectable.
I gave him a
right.
plus for one scene.
That's fine.
It's the same way I feel about the episode in a way, which will, if that's the grades we want to go into next.
Yes, let's do it.
So same thing. Like, this episode was really funny, but it seemed very all over the place. I like, as far as there was like how many different plots going
That's
on.
fair. There's like 3 different stories going
yeah.
on.
So
Yeah, that's fair.
and then there was like some that didn't seem to get resolved
Yeah.
really. So I I was like, but it was still a really fun episode. So like in my head, it's like, okay, it's B range, but I keep going back to McGurk's car, and I'm just like, I'm so happy that his car is so fucking cool. So like, I gave him that gets a B+ as well.
Nice.
Both grades B+.
Would you like to go next?
Yeah, I am gonna have to agree. I'm gonna give it a B+ as well.
Wow.
Not because it's bad. I think it was pretty good. I just know that it could be a little better. You know what I mean?
I apologize for my reaction. It had nothing to do with your grade.
Right, because he gave the same grade.
Right. and the thing was, before we even gave grades, I wrote down my grade, which was a B+.
Is this the second time in a row that we did this?
That might have been.
Last week's we all gave it a B+.
It could have been.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I felt the same way. It was not a bad episode in any way, shape, or form.
No.
I thought it was a very good episode. Mm-hmm. Again, 2 little earworms in this episode that I have carried around for the last 20+ years, which is just that weird little pause emphasis thing on the second and then Jason's character, hey everybody.
That scene was amazing.
Yeah,
I will not take anything away. That was a very funny scene. But can we go back? I just want to hear it. Just the scene with the car.
Yeah.
Just that when he slams his keys. Just that. That made me laugh so hard when I was just sitting there watching it. And keep in mind, I do not like. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Those are the rich people.
Yep.
There we go.
All right, here we are. God, the music is so much better.
Uh-oh! Uh-oh!
Uh-oh!
Car! Oh, no! Oh!
Bang.
Where? Biker!
The transition's also very cool with the wheel. I wonder if who's at fault there. He was going on the right side of the road, so.
Oh yeah, another biker situation. Huh? Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know.
But yeah, no, that was I enjoyed the episode.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah.
The fact that Arnie's coming back is like, because I don't know, he's very funny. I'm glad that he is funny at least, but God.
He definitely does an irritating boss very well.
Yeah, he does.
He very much does, yes. Andy Kindler is someone that I was a fan of after Home Movies. I followed him on Twitter back when I used to use that platform. And Andy Kindler's ability to not give a fuck, but also like anybody that would talk shit to him or about something he was passionate about, he had no problem being like, you're a fucking idiot.
That's Tim when I give Jason a bad grade.
Can I call it a feather scarf? No. Oh, man. All right. Anything else about this episode before we wrap her up? I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It was honestly, it's been so long for me because I've only been watching these episodes here, so it's been so long since I watched a home. It was just really fun to watch another home movies episode.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
With this being the second episode with the new animation, do you have any feelings about the new animation yet?
I don't know. The clip that we have on the screen right now is a clip where they're in the stadium and they have the background where it's just like the lines and the color. I like that. Mm-hmm. I wish they kept that through out the entire backgrounds, because then they go to the kitchen and it's like they have hardwood floors now. Yeah. And
well, as the art evolves, certain things that I agree, I like those. They call them invisible objects in the commentary. And they do make a point that as the show progresses, those things kind of fall to the wayside. I think it's akin to the character models having the hands and feet. It's just something that adds a little bit of charm to it. But as the show evolves, they get better at making backgrounds. They get better at stuff like that. So
I just love that they kept the same background from the first episode when he's walking through the field. That made me so happy.
But yeah, all in all, I think we were pretty spot on. I feel if all three of us could walk away from this episode feeling like it's a solid B+, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. It was a very good episode. It's not, to me, it's not an A tier. It's definitely not an S tier. It's not one of my top fives or anything like that, but it's still very enjoyable episode.
Absolutely.
Really true.
And the obscurity of a soccer coach bringing one of his 8-year-old players to go identify a body with him.
For emotional support.
True. I think we cracked it on that one. But yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for episode. Why don't we do plugs? All right, Marcin, why don't you go first?
I'm reaching into my bag of infinite projects here. Currently, I'm working on the sequel to my RPG podcast / audio drama. It is Puzzle Valley, is the first season. When Penny Popular's murder is recorded and sent to everyone through Snapchat, a group of teens uncover the mysteries of Puzzle Valley, the uncertainty of their future, and the secrets of those closest to them. The sequel series we're working on right now with Adele is part of it. It's a prequel set in the year 2000, and it's already looking to be one hell of a high school teen detective story. It might be too early to give away the story for that one, but as for the core of what Puzzle Valley stands for, it's about the masks other people put on us, the weight it carries, and finding the strength to take them off. Puzzle Valley means a lot to me, so if you want to listen to it, you can find it under the Eldritch Journeys banner, wherever you find podcasts. Season of the Curse 2 is a home movie about two wannabe YouTubers haunted by Halloween spirits in the form of intrusive thoughts. In order to save themselves, they must go inside their own minds to battle toxic masculinity, misogyny, depression, and self-doubt. Everyone that's in this podcast is helping make that film come to life, including my YouTube brother-in-arms, Punkin' Nonstop, who has over 1,000 videos on his YouTube channel, not a hyperbole. It's got tons of independent musicians who have agreed to let us use music or downright make music from scratch for the film. I'm really excited for it. It's one of the first film projects that I actually really believe in the story, and I believe that a lot of people would benefit from seeing it, and I can't wait to see what people think. And of course, I'm still working on the feature film I started in 2016. It's called The Doorman, and it's really weird, experimental. I started working on it before I even understood how anything in film works, like genres or anything like that, so I don't really know how to classify it. All I know is that it's going to get done one day, hopefully. But the logline is: when his childhood friends ghost him, our main character is called to the madhouse, where he forgets who he is and becomes prey to the man in the doorway. In order to escape, he must answer who he is, what he wants, and what his favorite color is. So that's a mouthful, but that's all the projects I'm working on.
Hell
yeah.
We did not plan that.
No, we didn't. I think we're a unit at this point.
Oh yeah.
An absolute unit.
So sometimes I paint, sometimes I make things, and sometimes I post that on my Instagram, which is the Artisanal of Oddity. That is Artisanal of Oddity at www.instagram.com. And that's my plug.
And as always, this podcast is brought to you by the Happy Corner Podcast. They were nice enough to donate equipment to us so we could keep this podcast going. So we always want to give them a nice little shout out at the end. The Happy Corner Podcast streams every Sunday at 1:45 Central. And then you can get the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. That's going to do it for this episode of Rewatching Home Movies. Join us next week for Season 2, Episode 3, Hiatus. If you liked what you heard, check out our Linktree at Linktree/RHMpod. There you can like, follow, and subscribe, send us an email, or leave us a 5-star review. I will read 5-star reviews on the podcast, like this one. Just learned this is a thing from a post on the Home Movies Brendan Posting Facebook. Listening now. Thank you very much. And thanks to Shannon Conway for the upgrade of our logo and Chris Bongat for the use of our theme song. On behalf of myself, Tim, and my co-hosts Marcin and Adele, thank you for rewatching Home Movies with us. We'll see you next week. Bye.